What's going on? This is the Real IDP Hunter. Welcome to the Real IDP Hunter Podcast. I'm joined tonight, AJ Veal, at the Baby Cow 1 on Twitter. He's a former U.S. Army newspaper writer back in the day. He'd write his little sports section. Went on to the, Fancy Wing Nuts, was it, back in the day too? And then you went to the IDP Center where you YouTube podcast with me, my friend. And I appreciate you doing that and coming on and the occasional writer. Senior Bowl scout too, right? We go down to Senior Bowl. We have a little good time. So I wanted to share with the audience this episode a little short story. First off, AJ, tell them what you're working on this episode.
Yep. So I did a first round mock draft, right? Post combine, kind of my thoughts on where players are going to go, where there's good fits.
You said thoughts. Now here's where it's funny, guys. You had a lot of thoughts come back from the Senior Bowl 2 years ago. We were driving through Atlanta, which is a death trap, like 2 a.m, and you were just going off. And I'm just trying to get through. It's like a video game. I'm just trying to get around the turns. And you're like, what? The Jets wouldn't do that. Jerry Jones wouldn't do that. You had so many thoughts. And I look over at you and I'm like, you want to just do a podcast on where we think these NFL players are going to land? And we did. You did it. It was very well done last year. And I'm looking forward to doing that again with you. I don't know your rationale on how you do it, but you were pretty accurate. Remember we had that one guy talking poorly. Oh, the Eagles won't take a linebacker. They won't take Chad Campbell. And you hit, my friend. So I just wanted to praise you on what you're doing. What else you been up to?
Man, looking back in time, 20-something years now, all my friends were like, bro, you should be a GM. You should be a GM. Okay, how do you become a GM? There's only 32, right? How do you start? Back in 2007, coming out of high school for me, how do you become a GM? I don't know. So sitting around, waste of talent. The knowledge is still there. The love of the game is still there. Going in depth with all the analytics and all the tools and the exposure that the game's having, it's something fun for me to do, and I really enjoy doing this. And I do tend to hit better or just as much as the experts, that are sitting on ESPN or the NFL Network. It's something I've enjoyed doing for many, many years. The first time I did a mock that was published, I was sitting in my barracks room in Germany, and I hit on like 6 out of the 32. I got them right. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can do this, but going to law school and schmoozing and starting back over, GM's not in the wrap. So I'll do my mocks, share them with y'all, drop knowledge and hang out and, just appreciate the game.
You said you like to be a GM, and this will be my final question, and we'll kick it off and get started. You're also a really good commissioner. You have this league. It's a share initiative, kind of like a Wounded Warrior League where, players pick their players. Was on ESPN. I think you're talking about moving to Sleeper. The one year that was really neat, you had former NFL player Ryan Kerrigan out there, and he was drawing draft picks. I think he was – would he put him on a card? I can't remember. But didn't he have a bow and arrow, and he was shooting at him? What's the story behind that? Can you elaborate? Yeah,
so one of my buddies drove up to, I think, Michigan area to get a service dog. He provided a service dog, and I was like, hey, man, I talked to him on the phone, I was like, pick whatever you want to do to pick our draft order. Get creative with it. I don't care what you do. So he put everybody's team name on a piece of paper and then went and stapled them to a tree, stood 30 yards away. And I think at that point we had 14 people in the league. And then he shot 14 arrows, did his best. And when you would hit, that was the draft order. He recorded it. We're adding in an IDP element this year to the, it's called the Dirty Old Vet League now. And we'll have, I think I'm going to keep it at 16 folks. Last year was kind of rough.
So the clues of this hidden player, he's a Raider, you said?
It said he's West Coast.
Okay. You said in the last episode he's a Raider. And how old is he?
Under 23.
Okay, we know who that is, my friend. Speaking of which, we're going to transition to the Raiders who have the 1.1 this year. The 1.1 Las Vegas Raiders. What are they doing with this pick, AJ?
I think this was decided the second the Raiders secured the first overall draft pick. This one's the no-brainer. I think going back, remember Jake Long, the tackle out of Michigan? He'd been basically the guy. It was like 56 days or something. He was the first overall pick. And you're sitting there at home, you're watching on TV, and the clock's ticking down. Why are we letting the clock go down to 2 minutes? We knew who this pick was 56 days ago. Mendoza's the pick for the Raiders. He's a lock. They need a quarterback. He'll come in. He's a locker room guy. He's a nice guy. You know, I saw a funny meme where he's got neck tats and he's got a fresh fade going on. We'll see how the Las Vegas environment improves him. But pairing him with Brock Bowers and Genty, getting some quality O-line in front of him. Don't know how the defensive side is going to work, but Mendoza's the lock for the Raiders.
Question for you on that, and I think you kind of said it in your intro. Is there any wiggle room there? Because you know the Raiders need a lot of stuff. And Mendoza, you know, a lot of people are profiling him as like a game manager-esque type of player. That's a pretty expensive miss if they miss at this position at 1.1. I know Brady was down at the championship and he was talking to Mendoza, what have you. But is that the absolute lock it in, set it, and forget it? Or are you thinking that's the call, or is there somebody else?
I'm 99.9% sure that's the call. You would have to do a very, very well-built package to trade up for that spot. I think the only team that could move up high enough, actually there's two that have enough capital to do it, would be the Jets or the Browns. The Jets need a quarterback too, but they have quite a few draft picks where they trade up to one spot ahead, get the quarterback, because after Mendoza, it kind of drops off. But I don't think it's likely. I think the Jets continue to fill holes with their additional picks rather than trading up to get a quarterback. They can wait till next year. They can run a tankathon, win 4 or 5 games, and they go get their quarterback next year, which is a much better class.
So in regards to the Jets, they're up next at 1.2. They got a lot of needs. They got quarterbacks in need. There's not one there. At least I don't think so. Edge is in need. Wide receivers in need. Linemen are in need. Defense is in need. Who are the Jets taking 1.2?
I'm going with best available, and I'm referencing the stat line that made headlines around the world that the Jets finished the season with 0 interceptions. I'm going with Caleb Downs, safety, Ohio State. I know it's not a major eye-popping need. It's a need when your team doesn't get one pick all year. He's going to come in, be a captain. He started at Alabama as a freshman, transferred to Ohio State, balled out. He's going to change your secondary. He's going to bring that spark, that big hitter. In 3 seasons as a starter, 256 tackles, 10 pass deflections, 1.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 6 interceptions, and 2 return touchdowns. He brings a needed spark to a pretty boring defense.
So for those on Spotify, welcome in. For those on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, welcome in. We're talking to AJ Veal. He's doing his best predictions, and he's very accurate at this the last couple of years. Very accurate at picking who he wants. We're only on pick 2. We're with the Jets. He went spicy earlier. He took Caleb Downs. I got to say, AJ, I'm going to push back on this one a little bit. Just hear me out, okay? I'm looking at this from a Jonah Hill Moneyball perspective. Remember that movie? We're going to talk Moneyball here, okay? Downs, if he gets picked that early, which safeties usually don't, he's going to be paid like one of the top safeties in the NFL, as opposed to an edge. They need an edge too. They just made that trade. They brought Jermaine Johnson out of town. If they end up bringing in an edge, any one of those edges, Arvell Reese, for example, he's not going to be getting paid as a top premier edge because of the way the rookie contract, the barriers are structured. So in terms of money, putting a safety there is going to put this team a little bit behind. Again, you can always, this draft is loaded at safety. They can always come back in the second and probably get some elite talent. But these edges in these other positions are going to dry up quick. Any thoughts there? Do you see my point?
No, yeah, I see where you're going with that. It's playing the long term, right? I love in the last podcast we did, you mentioned the at home sleeping, the coach. You can't let a player like there. I mean, there's 8 players right here, to kick off the draft that the Jets could take and be happy with. And I went back and forth, wide receiver, edge, and then Caleb Downs. I started looking at him and thinking as a GM, if I were the Jets, knowing I have cap space, knowing we don't really have a quarterback, I was like, I think a best available approach, and with just Downs' production and how he helps my secondary improve, which is just kind of gross last year. That's why I went with it. Yes, I probably, if Downs didn't exist or Downs came back to college this year, I'm probably going with wide receiver to help out Garrett Wilson. But they've got the money, they need the help, and that's where I went. Like I'm going with Downs.
Playing the what if game. When I was a kid, I used to read comic books. Marvel Comics had this what if, right? We'll play the what if game here. If there was a quarterback here that didn't go back to school, they'd probably go QB. But since not, you're saying they're going to go the best non-QB on the board, which is Caleb Downs, right?
Yeah.
Plus, there's a chance that this next pick, this next team, there's a chance that the Cardinals at 1.3, they're going to unload Kyler Murray this year. That's the rumor. Or the other rumor, too, is just going to cut him outright. He has a fat contract. I can see his name linked to the Jets. I don't know about you, but here the Cardinals stand. If that's the case, they'll need a quarterback. They definitely need an offensive line. They need the safety. They need a running back. They need an edge. They need every darn thing, and they're about to be one QB less. This team looks like a mess a little bit too. How do you fix the Cardinals at 1.3?
I'm taking tackle Miami, Francisco Magoya. He was a starting right tackle for 30-plus games. He brings a Mauler mentality to a pretty weak O-line. I know they invested last year with an offensive lineman early on as well. He brings a mindset that I think they've been lacking. And whoever is their quarterback next season gets a guy to play on the right side that can protect them. Whether they take a guy later on in the draft this year or they bring in a Band-Aid and wait for next year's draft. Magoya, that's my guy.
Sean Payton, when he was with the Saints, he was quoted as this, and this is kind of how I build my Madden teams. When you don't know what's on the board, just take a lineman, take an elite lineman. You could always use an elite lineman. So if you got a pick and you just don't know and the player's close, just take one. I mean, it's not that great of a draft class, but sure as heck, that team needs a lot of things. Try not to get your QB killed. I kind of like that take. Moving on to 1.4. The Titans need a lineman too. They definitely need a wide receiver. They definitely need an edge. They need a whole DL line. Here's a fun fact for the audience at home. And my question to AJ. The Titans, they got Justin Simmons, who's excellent. But their second leading pass rusher, Jihad Ward. Oh, my goodness. A little Jihad Ward? No, thank you. Is this a spot where Arvell Reese may land, or do you have somebody different?
I actually have somebody different.
Okay.
And I'll tell you where my mindset went on this. Who'd they take last year? At the 1-1, Cam Ward, right? But you didn't give him any weapons to work with. You really didn't. I mean, you took DK and other guy in the third and the fourth. You got a banged up 32-year-old receiver that's just coming off, being banned for gambling. So I'm going receiver here. I'm helping out my QB1. I'm helping out my franchise guy. And this might be much different than other people. I like Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio State. Banged up last year, but 17 yards a catch, 51 catches, 875, and 9. So every 5 catches, he scored a touchdown, give or take. He's smooth. He's a route runner. I think he'll pair really nicely with Cam Ward. The AFC South, Cam Ward needs help. And I think while I do like Arvell Reese there, the wide receiver class for me, it's 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 good, but nobody's like, oh, there's a Randy Moss in this draft. You know what I'm saying? I think Carnell Tate brings to the table that consistency and that balance that Cam Ward needs to be successful.
So there was a trade between the Jets and the Titans that it won't get processed till March 11th, but in principle, it's already done. The Jets traded to the Titans Jermaine Johnson. I don't know how you feel about that. A lot of people have strong thoughts there. In my opinion, he hasn't been the same after the injury. So maybe it's a prove-it deal. But the Titans traded the Jets defensive tackle T'Vondre Sweat. Now, for guys playing IDP leagues, if you got to play a defensive tackle way deep in your drafts, I usually can get a good 4 or 5 tackles out of him. He's not much in the sack department. So that trade's going to be processed March 11th when the new league year starts. But I wonder if any of that factors in with the way this team is going to be. Both teams are going to be dropping their picks.
Yeah, when I did my first mock, just for myself as practice, I did have Arvell going here. But with that trade in mind and knowing that there's a lot of quality deep edges later on, I figured I could pass and go with Carnell Tate here instead of an edge based on that trade.
So moving on to 1.5, this is exciting times with the New York Giants. Okay, they get a brand new coach, John Harbaugh. We like this. We got exciting running back, exciting quarterback. Malik Neighbors is on a cane. He's hobbling around. Is this a spot where we can get some lemon action or maybe a top wide receiver action? Because having those guys on the side, that might be exciting for a young Jackson Dart. I know it can go a lot of ways. The Giants have a wide receiver, an offensive line, cornerback, linebacker, DL issue. But is a wide receiver in the crystal ball horizon for the New York Giants, or do you have somebody else?
I have somebody else. I went with the combine phenom, linebacker, Ohio State, Sonny Styles.
100 tackles last season, added 6 sacks in 2024. Originally a safety who can cover, converted to linebacker. The Giants aren't fooling around with this one. He is a once-in-a-lifetime prospect, and good for them. Looks like you fixed the Giants super quick. What are you going to do with the Browns at 1.6? They need everything, buddy. They need a QB, a lineman, a wide receiver, a cornerback, a linebacker. Yes, I said QB. If anybody in the audience is thinking about Shadur Sanders in that Pro Bowl year, just don't. Just stop. Turn the channel, watch something else.
So finally, Arvell Reese is coming off the board, edge Ohio State. So thinking of where they went last year, Mason Graham, right, defensive tackle. They finally paid Myles Garrett what he was worth and what he was due. On the other side, I'm putting Arvell Reese. And my thought process, who are you going to double now, right? If we're looking at Reese as strictly, he can move around a little bit too. Okay, so you got a double Myles Garrett. What about Reese? Are we doubling him? So that just leaves us to have one-on-one with Mason Graham up the middle. That was my thought process on that, to kind of make that front line scary, right? You play Lamar Jackson. You get speed on the outside. You got Graham just clogging up the hole in the middle. Like that was my thought process on taking Reese there.
So this is a Madden strategy of mine, and actually I get it from the 2000 Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they were trying to fix that team. Remember how terrible that team was before the Super Bowl run, right? The John Gruden built team with Tony Dungy inherited. Don't get me started there. But what they did in the front office, you want to get a defense built real quick, you build it up the middle. You got a defensive tackle in Warren Sapp. You got a middle linebacker in Brooks. You got a safety in Lynch. Make other teams play to the outside. That's kind of a quick trick when you're trying to build a team. So where's your holy trinity here? You got Mason Graham in the middle. You got Myles Garrett on the outside. You got Carson Schwessinger in there, and now you're bringing in Reese? Yeah. Forget about it. Those cornerbacks are probably going to be taking naps on the field like Aaron Glenn. They don't need to do anything, right? Yeah. That's a good, well-built, well-thought-out. And who's to say JOK makes it back or not? That's just more gravy on the plate. One more question to you because you brought up Reese. and I brought this on the previous episode. Reese is a bit scary because we're playing Moneyball again, talking Jonah Hill here, Moneyball, Brad Pitt, right? If you draft an outside linebacker this high, you're not going to get your money back. You're not going to get production back. But if he plays edge, these are top 3, 4 premium positions, tackle being one, QB being one, corners later on. But yeah, edge is a premium position and a game changer. If he lasts to 1.6, that's crazy right there. I'm just hoping the Browns have enough draft picks later on where they can fix some of these other issues. Moving on.
Speaking of Browns salary caps, they're almost off the Deshaun Watson fiasco. They're almost in the clear, so they could get back to some normalcy for the cap. And the cap's been moved up to like $300 million this year too.
Good point.
So, yeah.
Good point. So this next team, right? The Commanders. I mean, I can see them, edge, wide receiver, linebacker, cornerback, tight end. Those are your biggest needs. Honestly, they need everything but quarterback. They need a whole lot to happen and land for them. Who's to say Bobby Wagner doesn't retire anytime soon? This pick here, 1.7, I'm interested in what you have to say because it could be anything, in my opinion.
Yeah. I looked at it and I looked at all the players available, and it was going with probably best available, and it was edge, David Bailey at Texas Tech. He checks all the boxes. He fits a team need. He can come in right away and start. And it wasn't a super splashy pick for me. It wasn't like I'm hyped about it. Like it felt right. Like when you see a team like the Steelers draft a guy, or back when Belichick was with the Patriots, you're like, that's a Patriot pick. That's a Patriot type player. That's the vibe I get with David Bailey and the Commanders.
So David Bailey, freak athlete, checks all the boxes. He's right there. He's my second edge. It looks like to me, if we're playing this game and we're playing GM, couch GM here, looks like you just created a little mini run at the DL position. I wonder, because if Bailey's your 2 and you took Reese, I wonder, at some point, some of these other elite guys, the Meslers, the Bains, some of these guys have to come off the board. The next couple picks coming up, the Saints need a DL, the Chiefs need a DL, the Bengals need everything, but they need a DL. The Dolphins are okay, but they need an edge. So I'm kind of interested, and then the Cowboys need to build their defense. The next 5 picks can be defense. So I'm kind of curious what you have to say. 1.8, the New Orleans Saints. What happens next?
So I know they need a wide receiver. I do know, but T-Rex is sitting there. I'm going with Rueben Bain. And I'm thinking not only from a need, but the ability to have him develop next to greatness. I like him learning from Cam Jordan. I like him on that team. Talking about the 2 DNs and a D tackle, they got Brian Breesy in the middle too. Former first round guy. He was a 5-star coming out of high school. He's been quietly average, so I think with the wide receivers being the way they are this year, they can wait till later and really just get Rueben Bain now to learn from Cam Jordan, because this is probably it for Cam this year. So I really like the mentorship and, just having a 15-year vet experience teach a guy that probably has a very similar play style as Cam.
Cam Jordan plays edge, but he can play interior just the same. Yeah. There's a guy in this team, former 5-star Brian Breesy, hasn't really put up anything. So what I like about your landing spot, it's a value pick. If the arms are short, like they say, well, we know they're short, and he can't deliver, that's not his game. He's a power rusher anyway. But let's say he can't deliver on the outside, next level. They can just move him on inside because that's a definite clear need. And I like what you said about the mentorship, the passing of the torch between Cameron Jordan and Rueben Baines. I like that pick. I don't have anything else there. 1.9, we got the former Super Bowl pedigree team, Kansas City Chiefs. Boy, they're in transition. And here's my problem with this team. Nick Bolton doesn't have any of the metrics. People love some Nick Bolton. They went and re-signed him. Now, here's the problem. They put a lot of money on him when you have Chanel and Tranquil just sitting on the bench. Now, guess what? Money can only go so far. Now we have a tight end possible issue if Kelsey leaves. Wide receiver's a problem. Cornerback safety's been a problem. Running back, we don't know what happened to that. Well, we do, injury. Offensive line, this team needs a lot of help, a lot of ways, a lot of fast. 1.9, what are you doing with this pick?
So how do you help the Chiefs succeed? You give Mahomes weapons. And I really cringe at this. One, the fact that the Chiefs are picking top 10, I had to do like a quadruple take. Like, this isn't right. Is this sure? Am I reading this right? But you got to help him out. And I love Pacheco. I love the way he runs. It's just angry. Kareem Hunt's 90 years old, so I am going running back here. And I know it's top 10, and I know it goes against the grain of everything that we've learned. But there's only one running back we're taking this high. It's Jeremiyah Love, Notre Dame. Dude scores touchdowns. Dude makes big plays. He averages over 6 yards a carry. He can catch. He can run. 3-year starter at Notre Dame. I know his stats weren't completely popping off the page like running backs in years past, but he fits a need, and he brings an explosiveness that will make the Chiefs fun to watch again. Take pressure off Pat, take pressure off Travis, take pressure off whatever wide receiver's not in jail on the Chiefs, and they're a fun offense to watch again.
Gotcha. Moving on to the Bengals. This is one of those where analytics and watching game kind of correlate. You could see it quick. That offense is humming. That defense has more holes than Swiss cheese. I mean, I could pull up any stat. They need help all around the 11. I refuse to believe in any multiverse, any alternate reality that they don't take a defensive player here. You agree?
Yeah. I'm going with former All-American Peter Woods, defensive tackle at Clemson. Who knows what's going on with the Bengals and their D-line coaches, and who is Hendrickson staying? Is he going? What they're doing? Are they signing guys? Are guys going back to college? Let's just bring in a guy we know that can do his job, do it successfully, and just kind of anchor that middle. That's where I'm at with the Bengals. This one was also like David Bailey. It makes sense. It's not flashy, but it fills a need.
We have no idea, Shamar Stewart, what's going on there. We have no idea with Trey Hendrickson. You got to build this team, the defense. And teams were just running on this team. So I kind of like Peter Woods being the top interior defensive lineman in this class, a former 5-star recruit with a 22% pass rush. Had a bit of a down year. We mentioned this on the other show. It's because the team transitioned from a 4-3 to a 4-2-5 scheme. He checks every box. I still have him as my top interior. My only question about this pick is there's like 4 or 5 guys all in the kind of same tier. Is this too high for an interior lineman? We don't know. We'll see. But there's got to be a defense to figure it out. If the Styles, the Reeses, the Baileys are off the board, the Bains, then yeah, that would probably be next in the pecking order for a real-life NFL team. AJ, how do you fix the Miami Dolphins? There's a lot of transition, the coach, the quarterback for one thing. Yeah. Tyreek Hill, wide receiver is an issue. And then, of course, the defense, I mentioned the edge, but cornerback's a problem. And you can always use an offensive lineman. What are you doing with this team?
I'm looking at what I have left on my team, and I'm bringing in players to complement. So I'm going wide receiver here. Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver, USC. I don't think Waddle's a number one. I don't think he is. I also don't think Lemon can be a number one. But together, they're a pretty sick duo. So that's my thought process there. So whoever is going to be quarterback can come in, and they got 2 reliable guys to throw to. So that's my thought process. I know there's a lot of holes to fill. There's not a quarterback there to take. Even corner-wise, Lemon felt like a good pick. I don't know if it's having the word lemon on a Miami jersey just made sense. It just, play like I keep going back to this, and maybe it's just me because I'm a weirdo, but like certain players look right in certain jerseys. Like that guy's a Steeler. It just makes sense. He's a Steeler. or that's a Raven type player, and growing up a Jaguar fan, like that dude's a definitely Jaguar. He'll be in jail in 3 years. Justin Blackman and Matt Jones. Don't get me started. But Lemon was the pick here for me. Let Waddle, run deep and put Lemon on your crossers. Help out whoever's chucking the ball.
So this next one's kind of a fun one. We're going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we mentioned with the Bengals, hey, it looks on tape. We see their great offense, terrible defense. This is in the same vein. I have this as for team needs. They can go defensive lineman. They can go linebacker. They can go safety. Translation, they need help on this whole entire defense. Let me just paint the picture. Well and good for the audience out there. Last season, the Dallas Cowboys were humming. They had an elite offense, did they not? Their offense ranked first. Total yards, 404 points a game. That was great. Humming. The defense, you guessed it, ranked 32nd. They gave up 420 yards and 30 points a game. You can't win without a defense. I like the coach. I like Schottenheimer. I like Jerry opening up the checkbook, trying to put pieces in there. But they need a lot of things. AJ, help me fix the Cowboys. What are they doing?
All right. This is going against the grain as many folks, but I'm going with a corner here. Avion Terrell, corner Clemson. And this is a Jerry pick. This is Jerry saying, I don't care about your corner rankings, Mel Kiper. I don't care. I want my guy. He's got the pedigree. His brother's playing for the Falcons. And I want to key in on a couple stats here over the career, his 3 seasons. 25 pass deflections and 8 forced fumbles. 8. The dude's a turnover machine. And I watched his combine. He looks smooth. He's lanky. He's tall. He's around the ball. They need help at corner. I feel like I had to do something a little splashy here because it's Jerry. You never know. He might take a punter. I don't know. But I feel like Jerry going against the grain and taking a guy like this because of his potential. And then they had the guy they got last year out of Eastern Carolina, Siobhan Rebels, coming off injury and kind of getting back into it. 2 really physical, prototype athlete, corners can really help elevate this defense.
Gotcha. And on that note, question for you in regards to that. So we got the pick 1.13 coming up. We got the Rams. Okay. The Rams this pick came over from, they traded it. They got it from the Falcons. I actually had Terrell in my own mock draft, my own mind coming here because a lot of interesting things happen. The Rams can go a lot of different ways. They are. They kind of go up and down in a draft. But the Rams are losing in free agency Cameron Curl, Kobe Durant, Roger McCreary. There's going to be a hole there at cornerback, possibly safety. Now, recent news, Quentin Lake did sign an extension, but nothing long-term. So I think the Rams would need cornerback safety. Could always use a lineman, like I said, that Sean McVay and Sean Payton mentality. I don't know, maybe a quarterback error, but there isn't one. And then lastly, some depth at wide receiver. There's a lot of different ways that pick can go, but I thought it was cornerback safety. What do you see going on here?
I went back and forth right here because I kept coming back to the rich get richer, right? They have 2 first-rounders this year, the Rams do, because typically they don't have any draft picks because they just trade away everything and just try to go win championships. But I take a guy that probably would have went top 10 had he played this season, Jermond McCoy, corner out of Tennessee. Fills a need, didn't touch the field at all this past season. He's going to be healthy coming out, and I think he'll immediately be able to start. He's a physical player. I think he's a really good fit for the Rams.
Okay, another team that drafts really well historically is the Baltimore Ravens. They had one heck of a draft last year. They brought in Malachi Starks, I think pick 27. They brought in Mike Green, who is showing signs of flashing, which is kind of neat at 59. They also brought in tackle Emory Jones, where AJ, you got to interview him, you and Lee down at the Senior Bowl, pick 91. Yeah. There's a lot of ways a general manager can go and fix the Ravens, but they don't have a lot of holes. maybe an edge, maybe a DL if you don't like the names I said, maybe a lineman if you don't like names I said, maybe a safety if you don't like the names I said. Perhaps wide receiver tends to be a fade in your mock draft. But what would you do with pick 14 Baltimore Ravens?
I thought about wide receiver here as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want wide receivers to go to the Ravens and then just die and not get used. So I went typical old school fashion Ravens. I'm talking about early 2000s. And let's get a hefty up front. Let's take Caleb Banks, University of Florida, D tackle. All right. And being a Gator fan, I watched this dude play when he played. And I watched him wreck games. And that's what the Ravens need up front. I feel like they're kind of in line with the Chiefs. Like they're a little bit older. All those guys that were once superstars are coming to the ends of their careers. So I think Caleb Banks kind of brings in that breath of fresh air on that D line and kind of set the standard up front. I like Caleb Banks there.
What I find interesting, because in my draft guide over the Fantasy Six Pack, we have detailed over 207 players. People in the audience want to check that out. Go to the Fantasy Six Pack website; you can see it. I have Caleb Banks as my interior defensive tackle 4. I get it. The elite size, the bigger frame, outstanding run support. I mean, shoot, I got to see him down at Senior Bowl as well. He did lead the nation in run stuffs. But the only concern I have is I think there's other guys in this tier that I like a little better. 12% pass rush rates. Not a lot of squeeze to that juice if you're trying to fix a hole. I mean, I could see him as I'll relate a Tony Saragusa guy, fill that gap, eat that gap, whatever. But I don't know if he's going to be a difference maker for the Ravens. Any thoughts there?
Just looking at everything that's left and that's available, it would have been more of a complimentary than like a need filler, and I was trying to think, it's like, are we in position like the Rams? Is this a luxury pick, or can we bring in a guy that's going to start and fill a need for us? And that was kind of like where I was at. And I was like, the Ravens are right there in the middle, right?
Yeah, so these middle teams, to your point, the Rams, Ravens, and our next team is the Buccaneers. All of those teams have been drafting really well and being very successful over the last couple of years. I mean, shoot, the Buccaneers, this is the first time they missed the playoffs since what, 2019?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like before the Brady years, like they've been eating really good and putting players in place, so I'm wondering if that continues. They need a lot of things, the Bucs do, particularly edge. And maybe a linebacker to replace Old Man David eventually. If you don't believe in Dennis, I'm not sure. Tight end fits there too. Maybe that's too high for a tight end. But what are we at? 1.15 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What are your thoughts? What are you doing with this pick, AJ, at 1.15?
I'm taking edge, Auburn, Keldrick Falk.
Okay.
Pass rusher. I love this dude's size. He's like 6'6". Gets after the quarterback. Filling the linebacker need. I am a Dennis believer, so I'm okay with going edge here. Sadiq is the only one that we would consider at tight end. I know Otten's gone. We might be able to find, and looking at the stat line for Otten and any of the tight ends at the Buccaneers, I just don't think they're using them enough. So picking a tight end here doesn't make sense. So we go out and we get Falk to fill that edge need.
Falk is a great run supporter too, just like Peter Woods ahead of him. What we got to see at the combine, because a lot of these top players, they don't really measure, but we got to see his length, his size, his ability, and he's a massive frame person, a 6'6" guy, 280-pound guy playing edge. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
Bringing elite size, speed to an already, Tampa Bay veteran-led defense. That'd be kind of interesting. I'm kind of curious to see what he does with that old Keldrick Falk. So kind of an interesting prospect to me. I like your pick. We're going on to the Jets. And this was my rationale earlier. With the exception of Downs, there's plenty of guys in the secondary the Jets could still have there. They can fill an elite position, a quality position. I know in recent years they've filled their line pretty well. They got at least one decent wide receiver. That QB is probably going to come in free agency. Did you hear this? They tagged Breece Hall. Only the Jets would tag a running back. You know what I mean? So my question to you is, I think, going back to the defensive side here, are they going to double down in the secondary, or are they going to go somewhere else with this pick? Which, mind you, this has come from the Colts. This is the Sauce Gardner pick.
Yeah. So I'm feeling Sauce. We let Sauce walk. We have a hole to fill. I'm tired of being a headline, so I'm going with corner LSU Mansour Delane. 4 seasons, 191 tackles, 27 pass deflections, and 4 forced fumbles, 8 picks. A guy that can get his hands on the ball. That's exactly what they need. So him and Caleb Downs out there holding down the secondary. Let's get back to playing some good ball. Let's create some takeaways. We have 2 guys that have proven they have the ability to take the ball away.
We'll get what, Downs and dude here, those are the top players at their position. If you don't want a stat hanging over your rearview mirror, 0 interceptions in a year. And honestly, AJ, I don't know how the heck a team does that. By default, you think you would just kind of luck into one. But if you don't want 0 interceptions a year, you take the top 2 guys and fill that position up. So I kind of like what you're doing here.
Yeah, it made sense. I mean, there was a lot of other guys. I looked at, it's just looking at who's left. It didn't fit right. Wide receiver. No, we could probably go out to free agency and get one, or we can wait later in the draft. The Jets have buku picks, so being that this is the first, we might be able to get the same productivity out of a 3rd, 4th round guy that we could at this pick, at 16 at wide receiver.
You mentioned productivity, and some coaches are better than others, head and shoulders above the rest. The Lions. They sure do get a lot of productivity out of a lot of people in a lot of places, right? That's just a credit to Coach Campbell, okay? Since they built the team up, the trinity of Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, Aiden Hutchinson, I was waiting last year, your pick, Jack Sawyer. I was waiting for that to happen. I wanted that to happen so bad,
Me too.
And it didn't. I want them to get me somebody on the other side edge. It just screams, will they finally put an edge in a loaded edge class, mind you? We have tons of guys on the board. Is it going to be edge finally? If not, where else are they going to go? Lineman, corner, safety? Well, what are you thinking the Lions do to fix this missing the playoffs record? What's going to happen here?
When in doubt, go O-line. So I went with Spencer Fano, tackle Utah. I know this dude is getting Will Campbell comparisons on the short arms, and after the Will Campbell Super Bowl performance, it's scary. I feel like he's a Dan Campbell type guy. He's high energy. I think he can play really any position on the O-line, so you can move him around. The right tackle spot's locked in. So you can play him where you need him. Whoever you require for agency, maybe you can get a vet that can hold down. He can be a starter. They need some help on the O-line. Let's help out Goff. Let's help out Best. Let's help out our receiving core by building a really dependable offensive line.
Yeah, moving on to the next team. I kind of like that fit. It works. Like I said, when in doubt, you just go and take a lineman. We have the Vikings up here. They got a lot invested in the quarterback position. A young guy, this is what you're going to get. They have some struggles. So, QB is an issue for him. I don't see that as a draft need, though. He's a young guy. You're just going to have to go with those growing pains. There's an older guy who is starting to get there up in age. Harrison Smith is 37 years old. It just screams to me eventually they're going to replace him. Or do you see another position? Because they can do a lot at this spot. Safety, corner, offensive lineman, wide receiver, linebacker. Just a few and QBs in question. But I think it's going to be safety. I'm going back to I can't remember. Was Harrison Smith ever on the Madden cover? I'm trying to remember. It's been years, and I just feel like almost every version of Madden that I've ever played, Harrison Smith's been a dude. Now he's just an older dude. I'm just wondering. So
Yeah. So no, you hit the nail on the head, man. I'm finding his replacement, but the same with Rueben Bain and Cam Jordan, Dylan Thieneman. That's who I'm pairing next to him. And great combine performance. I'm super stoked about it. 3 seasons, 302 tackles, 100 tackles a season, 13 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles. But dude's got hands. He can tackle and he's got hands. You have those two up top patrolling over top this season. Let him learn. And then Harrison walks off into the sunset. And then you got Thiemann around. It just made sense. It looks right. And I think he'll look really good purple.
I just confirmed that Harrison Smith was never on the Madden cover. It just feels like I've seen it. It's like, what do they call those? The Mandela effect. Yeah. I just feel like Harrison Smith was on a Madden cover, and I feel like Sinbad was a genie in a movie at some point. Don't get me started on this. I just feel like that kind of happened. I like your pick. Question: Dylan Thieneman just had a great combine. There's another player in that vein as a DB2. Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Both of those guys, case in point. McNeil Warren played 61% of the snaps in the box. Great player. Dylan Thieneman made the transition when he moved over in college. He went from more of a free, more of a box, and he's produced 100 tackle games, 100 tackle seasons the last 2 years. Both are good players. They're both in that same kind of tier, DB2, DB3. Is it an either or there for you, or is Thieneman the guy regardless?
After the combine, because they were neck and neck. After the combine, Dylan kind of moved himself into 2 for me, and the other guy moved to 3. Okay. He didn't have a great combine performance. He's already a small school guy. We really needed him to do an average or better combine performance, and he really didn't hit the mark. So he kind of
that's the conversation right now. How much do we move these guys to? I have them kind of the same right now, DB2 and 3, but I have dude ahead of him right now, but that doesn't mean it won't change. I'll tell you something that did change. The 8-9 Carolina Panthers somehow willed their way like Yoda in Star Wars into the playoffs. That team looks bad on paper, AJ. They have so many needs. Like, just to name a couple: linemen, edge, LB, safety, couple wide receivers. I can go down the line. Who are you taking here? Center's an option. I mean, shoot, you could probably go all 11 players to include QB if you want to get technical. Who are you taking and why?
So it was getting to the point in the draft where I was like, I have to select this freak somewhere. This guy has to get drafted. I can't let him fall out of the first round. Then I'm looking, and I was like, me personally, as a fan, where would I want to see this guy? And then it goes, as a GM, I need to help out my former first-round pick quarterback. Then as a coach, I'm looking, what can I make defensive coordinators lose sleep over? So kind of more of a luxury pick. There is a need. I know that they've got a couple guys on there that are young, but they don't produce. I'm going with the tight end Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon and giving him to the Panthers. So you got Sadiq, you got the squirrel hunter Leggett, and then you got Tet just lining up wide. They are massive, strong, fast, physical human beings that can kind of really change the whole dynamic of the offense. And Tet was only a rookie. You know what I'm saying? I think doing this really helps elevate that offense, and then they can fill the needs down the road. I like it.
If you guys want to check out my Twitter, it's the Real IDP Hunter. Don't follow the old IDP Hunter. It got hacked. So it's the Real IDP Hunter. I was tweeting about this at the combine. Your dude here and the other tight end, they were going back and forth, kind of like Rocky Balboa and Ivan Drago, the gif of them punching in Rocky IV. They're like, oh, you did that at combine? Watch what I can do. But in the case of your guy here, I just want to enunciate that a little bit more. Let's expand on that, okay? His 40-yard dash was a .39. That's the first among all tight ends, the fastest record for a tight end since 2003. You ready for this name? The previous record, the 440, was set by Vernon Davis. And for years, people were talking about Vernon Davis, right? His 10-yard split, 1.54. That was first among tight ends. Vertical jump, 43.5. That was second. That was tied for one of the best all times at his position. Eli Stowers was trying to edge him and hit all these high marks too. But our guy here can block. He's got the edge over Stowers in that regard. Broad jump. I'm going to keep going down the line. I think he was second or third amongst tight ends. And his bench was an honorable 26 reps. 225 pounds on that bench press. AJ, you said that in the last podcast, the bench press is different this year, right? Measures pressure or something?
Yeah, it's measuring more. It's like isometric focus. So it's more on explosiveness. So as analytics and technology continue to grow, this is the first year they did it. So rather than just seeing endurance and how many reps you can do, there were other measurements that were being taken into place. And I'm sure more information will come out on it, that this was the first year they did it. So it was something interesting, something new. As you know, I think every year the combine is going to continue to adapt and evolve.
This was a great pick. And, I follow the Panthers too. You said it yourself. Oh, they don't need anything in the position. The guys they have aren't producing. Well, guess what? By proxy, they need that position, do they not? Those guys are lunching, just hanging out. So bring in a stud, and that would change the team dynamic around. Speaking of a team that needs to change the dynamic, we're on pick 20 already. Dallas Cowboys. We said what we have to say. This is their second pick. Who's Jerry taking here?
Jerry's taking edge, Clemson, Mr. T.J. Parker.
Ooh.
And I feel like this is a good pick. This is a steady pick and a safe pick for Jerry. So Jerry's not taking a punter here, y'all. He's taking a guy that he can come in and do his job, do it right, and be effective. Don't think he's going to be a game breaker. We already talked about Clemson's changing of the defense, the wow factor, the stats weren't all there. The guy's going to be good. I don't think you're going to get Micah Parsons type plays out of him, but he's going to help the defense get better.
Well, you mentioned Parsons talking about elite. Honestly, if Parker would have came out in 2004, he would have been my edge one. He just struggled like a lot of that Clemson team did this year. You know what I mean? I'm noticing your edge rankings going on the board. There's some premier talent still left in this draft, and I'm wondering if they come out in the first round because we're down to 11 more picks. Pittsburgh Steelers, this is a neat one. They need a QB eventually. They're flirting with Rodgers. They probably need a wide receiver because, outside of Metcalf, what's going on? And Metcalf's kind of questionable, too, for all that money they're paying him. Cornerback, maybe. Safety, I'm going to say yeah, and you could always use an offensive lineman. What are they doing with the Steelers who they're trying to reunite Aaron Rodgers with Mike McCarthy? I don't know how that's going to pan out. But what are we doing here, my friend?
Yeah, this was a hard one, and I went back and forth with it, and then I started looking at who was left, and I was like, who would look good in a Steeler uniform? What type of player fits the mold for the Steelers? Does this guy? I'm questionable about this guy. He doesn't really fit the scheme. So when in doubt, I went with the lineman. I went with Monroe Freeling, University of Georgia, and I looked at the picture of this guy, man, and I saw him at the combine. He looks like he goes to my grandma's church, but he only had, I think, 16 games or 14 games started at the University of Georgia. But he's a big physical dude. I feel like he fills a need. He's athletic enough to do what you need him to do, and I think that's a good pick. If Rodgers is coming back, let's continue to protect our guy. We're going to the playoffs every year, with Tomlin all those years. Like, what's the future hold now? Start with the O-line.
AJ, we're on pick 22 with the Chargers. And, you can make a case. They need DL, linebacker, CB, safety. They need a defense. But one thing that stood out fantasy football-wise and just watching film, Herbert was hitting the deck left and right. That offensive line abandoned him. I know this isn't talked about as a highly regarded offensive lineman class, but we got a lot left on the cupboard. We have a lot left. We didn't pick a lot off the board. Is this an offensive lineman pick, or do you have someone else? And what are your thoughts on that?
It's O-line. It had to be O-line. Hopefully the whole O-line come back and be healthy. But I went with Ola Vega Ione, guard out of Penn State. He looks the part. He looks right. Philadelphia Eagles selecting Cassius Howell, edge out of Texas A&M. People are hating on this guy's short arms as well, just like Bain, but he produces. He's athletic. He's not my favorite guy, but they don't need him to be a starter right away. It's the Eagles. So the Browns were banged up. They made a preseason trade, so on and so forth. I went with a guy that also has been banged up his entire career. But he's got so much upside. How far could I let this guy fall before a team that needed a receiver could take him? So I went with wide receiver, Arizona State, Jordan Tyson. So in 3 seasons, he did not complete one full season out of the 3 that he played. 158 catches, 2,200 yards, 22 touchdowns in 33 games. He can find the end zone. He can make plays when he's healthy. So I had to get some help for the Browns. Steve, you got anything on the Browns pick? Jordan Tyson?
No, not at all. And moving ahead on 25, the Bears, that offense is humming right now. I think if they do anything, it would be possible offensive linemen, but I can see a move at DLCB, edge, safety. Who do you got for the Bears?
I've got linebacker, Georgia, C.J. Allen. He's a future green dot. And when I wrote it, I was like, Steve loves green dots. We've done episodes on it. We talked about it. Actually, on our road trip up to Canton, we talked through, I think, what did we do, 58 or 59 linebackers talking about green dots, breaking it down?
Yeah, there's not that many, 32 teams in NFL. There's not that many every down players. So to play every down, there's probably like 38 every down players, but not too many people. Each team has some green dot somewhere, whether they're linebacker or safety. So, yeah, every down players, what we talked about. Green dots are interesting because they hold the communicator. So, yeah, there'll be 32 teams, and Allen strikes like he would fit that, yeah?
Yep. All right.
I like Allen a lot. He's probably one of your safer prospects. I have him as LB2 to get him this late. And he's only 20 years old, 88.6% run defense grade. Very reliable tackler. 7.4% missed tackle rate in his career. Anything under 10 is exceptional. So, yeah, to get him this late here, that's great. Probably they're going to move on from Edmonds anyway, so the fit makes sense. I'm curious about fits for 1.26. Buffalo Bills seem to be in a lot of transition. I don't understand what that team's doing, but they never really gave Josh Allen an elite wide receiver. The tight end they brought in when they drafted that tight end, I mean, he seems to be one of the better receiving threats, but he's not even full-time most of the time. And then you have edge has always been an issue. Greg Rousseau does not cut it as a DL1. I have questions at corner. I have questions at offensive lineman. And shoot, Matt Milano's getting older, and Terrell Bernard's been injured. I have questions there. So wide receiver, edge, cornerback, linebacker, offensive lineman, 1.26. The Bills are a mess. What do you do to fix that?
I'm going receiver, and I was torn between the two. And I'll tell you the reasoning on why I took one over the other. So, and I know he didn't have the best combine workout, but I'm going with wide receiver Denzel Boston out of Washington. It was between him and KC Conception. And I feel like Conception is a very similar style player to Shakir that the Bills already have, right? So we want a guy that can blossom into a 1 or 2. The wide receiver room is already kind of wide open in Buffalo. And I think with Boston having a large catch radius, he's not going to burn you, but having reliable hands out there that's what I would do as a GM. I don't want 2 Khalil Shakirs on my team. I want I want somebody else that brings a deep ball, or like this guy's going to catch it no matter what. Let Shakir run all the ends and the drags and little slot stuff, which is where he excels.
So I'm going to do these next two together. Pick 27, San Francisco. Pick 28, Houston Texans. Both are very similar. They both finished 12-5 last year. They both had a decent schedule. They both need edges, safeties, offensive linemen, mind you. The Texans are more a defensive team, so they can probably go like some offense, some wide receiver, offensive line. The 49ers are a little bit more weaker at wide receiver and have the running backs locked. But between these two picks, just do them together, 1.27 49ers, 1.28 Texans, who you got?
I got Niners going with KC Conception.
Yeah.
And I got the Texans going and helping their franchise quarterback, Caden Proctor, tackle Alabama.
Love it. And then 1.29, the Rams, they've already been on board. We've already discussed them. What you doing there?
This is your luxury pick for the Rams being the Rams. I'm finding Stafford's replacement. Quarterback, Alabama, Ty Simpson. I'm going to let him sit. I'm going to let him chill out. I'm going to let him learn from Stafford. I'm going to let him watch. He ain't going to touch the field. A little bit of Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre type deal going on.
Heck yeah. And then we're going to go Broncos, which that team seems to be forever stuck in time, suspended animation on that winter snow field for the championship, down 7-0, 7-3, whatever it was, with a backup quarterback trying to beat the New England Patriots. I think Sean Payton may have blew that call, man. I think they should have kicked the field goal when they had it, but no one expected a blizzard coming in. Yeah. So which next pick do you have that's going to come in like a blizzard and help fix this team? Where are they weak at? What do you think the Broncos need?
With all the needs like that are just listed right there, linebacker, tight end, DL, running back, there's nobody of value at 30. So when in doubt, go O-line. I took Caleb Lomu, tackle out of Utah. Okay. He's dependable. He's going to come in. He's going to do what needs to be done to help Bo Nix. Bo Nix is coming off that injury. Let's help him out. Let's give him a little bit more time.
And then we'll do the last two together. This is the Super Bowl matchup. Pick 31, the Patriots. Pick 32, the Seahawks. They're kind of, do their job, shut their mouth, bring their lunch pail to work kind of teams. This was a weird year. Ask people the Super Bowl score, they're not going to know. Ask people who played in the Super Bowl, they probably won't know. But they'll remember the darn halftime show. Don't get me started. That's the way everything's kind of moving. But both teams are kind of built similar with that defense and running the ball and, QB play doesn't make too many mistakes. I think they both need an edge. I think they both need an offensive lineman. I think the distinction is the Seahawks probably need a corner, possibly a running back because of Walker leaving. But your next pick, the 1.31, they can go tight end. Hunter's getting old. They can go safety as well. Offensive lineman, edge, DL. What do you think the Patriots do? What do you think the Seahawks do?
So for the Pats, I'm going with a Vrabel type guy, Akeem Mesidor, edge out of Miami. 6 seasons. He's got 34.5 sacks. He played opposite of Rueben Bain. I feel like he's just a Patriot type player. It fills a major need. He's got the production. I think he is like 25 or 26 years old. So he's a little bit older. We're getting him at the end of the first. There's a lot of production there. So that's why I went for the Pats. And then to wrap it up, the Hawks pick 32. I'm going with Brandon Cisse, corner, South Carolina. And I even put in my notes right. The rich get richer. These guys just won a Super Bowl by being aggressive and physical. And this guy is just a freak athlete. Little raw. You're picking last, though, in the first round. Like, the world is yours. And I like him here. He doesn't get thrust right in like, hey, you have to start and lock down all the number one guys. No, he can come in, he can learn, and he can develop.
So in regards to your Mesidor pick, PFF has him as a top 12, pass rusher. There's a lot of cases where his 15% pressure rush can be more. If you look at the stats and line him up head for head with Bain, he actually had better stats in a lot of analytical categories. I have him as my edge 6, and you're getting him late in the draft. And you just mentioned getting dude for the Seahawks. That's a sweet deal at pick 32. The rich are getting richer. And that's probably the only place you can go at the Seahawks is the cornerback position because they're loaded everywhere. What are you going to do on that team? They're built like a 2000 Ravens squad. So I like all your picks, AJ.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Spend a little bit of time on it, trying to come from different angles, different thought processes, and just historical teams. A lot of teams too, where they're at, their scouts have better access to certain teams. So I was taking a lot into account when I was building this out.
Fancy and frames. I'm doing some articles over there. You should be seeing the slot cornerback article coming out, the rookie DLs, rookie linebackers, rookie safeties, and there's another one coming out. So probably about 4 or 5 articles back to back in the spirit of this post-combine rookie season. And we're going to be grinding like this, AJ. You were right. You were correct. These are going to change once we get more information on which landing spots happen. I'll be on IDP Nation next week doing a mock draft, and then look for that article as well. AJ, where can the audience find you?
Find me on X at thebabycow1. Hanging out with Steve. I'll be on here. I'll be around, y'all.
Heck yeah, we'll be at the the Fancy Expo as well. Yeah. So, that's all we got for this episode. You guys talk hard, everybody.